How's it going, folks? It's part 2 of the clamshell build. Yes! I was going to take a shower.
Just a nice little taste.
So yeah, we're kicking off the G3 Clamshell build, part 2. This is the actual build part where we take apart the machine. Before I go any further, I just want to say, if you like retro tech videos or watching people take apart old computers, take a big old dump on those like and subscribe buttons. Together, we can defeat CompuLord. So today we are upgrading this sweet little clamshell iBook with an SSD. I bought a 64 gig mSATA. Originally tried to put a 120 gig in there. Long story short, it didn't work and it was never going to work. I don't know why I ordered those parts, but I did. So you'll get to see a taste of that.
Just a nice little taste.
I also wanted to upgrade the RAM, but it turned out this machine was already maxed out. It has a 512 stick in it, and it's registering like a total of 578 megs. And to be fair, 512 megs of RAM did a lot of work back in the day, so I imagine 578 did a little bit more. Also, before we jump into things, I just want to give a special shout out to my buddy Joe. Thank you, Joe, for buying me 3 coffees last week. Joe, I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. I also wanted to say, you strike me as someone who understands people. And not just people, also animals. But not just animals, big cats. And hear me out. You seem like the kind of guy who could walk into a tiger enclosure with 3 salamis tied to your belt, and just using a simple, kind stare, you could turn that lion into a lap cat.
Just a nice little taste.
So without further ado, let's jump right into it and start pulling this machine apart. Alright, so if you couldn't tell, the intro was filmed well after this whole project had concluded. So here we are in the initial teardown stages, which, following a guide from 8-Bit Guy, which is a fantastic guide, it was totally doable. If I didn't have that guide, I don't know if I would have been able to pull this one off, because there are a lot of screws, and a lot of different screws. So really pay attention to your screws if you're going to try and pull this apart. And also, if you're trying to take one apart following this video, just go watch 8-Bit Guy's video. It's much better and it's not sped up. Anyway, so here we are pulling out the keyboard, removing the Wi-Fi card. The metal plate covering the RAM comes out, and we can free the keyboard. Next up, we're going to close it, lay down a towel because I don't want to scratch up the case. And it's time to pull the 4 screws out of the bottom and the 2 at the top. These are, I believe, T6 or 8 or whatever Torx screws, kind of the standard ones that Apple uses. The 2 up top are extra long because, oddly enough, they're also part of the hinge screws, so that's a major pain when you're trying to put the monitor back on. 1 screw out from by the optical drive, and then you can pop it back over, remove a few more from the keyboard area. And then you just want to unplug this ribbon cable here. And then you can start going on to removing the case. Now the case is held in with clips, like many Apple products. So to not break the clips, especially on something this old, you gotta gently work it. Really gently. Also, you want to unplug that speaker cable just so you don't break it. And on this case, don't pull up. You gotta kind of pull toward you and work it. Took a little bit. I ended up cutting a lot of footage of me working it, know what I'm saying? But eventually it came off. Next up, you can pull this little riser guy out, and the optical should slide out. There's 2 little plastic clips hanging on there, just make sure you don't break them. And we're free. Coming up next, we want to get at the modem, so we've got to remove this little metal RF piece with a cushion on it, a few more screws, and then you peel back this this metallic adhesive, and it should reveal the modem. Shiggity schwa. There's 1 screw on it once you get it out, and then you can just pull the whole shebang out. Oh, you also want to unclip the 1 cable on the back, which is right there. First hinge screw comes out. We have half of a free monitor. Pop out a few more cables, and remember to be gentle and to actually disconnect them from the clip and not the cable. Don't pull on the cables. They are old and they will come out. So with everything unplugged, it's time to get back at the screwing. More screws all along the top of the shield. I don't know, there's like 8 of them. I've lost count at this point. There's too many screws in this laptop. I will say though, these screws are a much better quality than the ones they use in new machines. Alright, so we don't have a monitor anymore. That means we can get rid of our internet jack. Bye-bye. And the shield comes off. And now it's just a matter of removing these 3 riser screws, or whatever they're called, and then we can access the hard drive. It's going to be sad saying goodbye to this sassy hard drive. But we need something faster and newer. So pulling back and forth on the little cable, or the little ribbon that lets you pull the cable out, you can free up the hard drive. This one was kind of stuck in there from being rubber on plastic for so many years. Alright, so quick update. Unfortunately, the SATA to IDE bridge that I bought was too large in more ways than one, ladies. It was too large to fit in the case, but also, I don't think I got the right 44-pin connector. I thought I ordered a 44-pin, but I think I might only ordered a 40. Either way, it will not work. So the new parts that I've ordered are a 44-pin IDE to mSATA drive, and then an mSATA mini SSD. I think only 64 gigs. Oh wait, I think I hear something now. So I ordered a 64 gig mSATA SSD and a little mSATA to IDE board with a housing. I'm really hoping that this works, because if it doesn't work, then we have to order more parts, and that means that I'll have had to reassemble and disassemble that computer a second time, which sucks. Got a bit of a Kramer thing going on. Well, actually it's not too bad now. Before it was like, ugh! Let's get to it. Finally, mSATA solid state in hand and bridge board on the table. The young prince set forth in reassembling his strange old laptop. So, first things first, let's plug in that solid state drive right into the bridge board. This is kind of a nice little package because it comes in a white housing, which kind of goes with the colors of the laptop. Oh, and look at that, there's June. One thing it didn't fit, though, was the edge of the connector cable there. So, clipping off the side, you can see that it now fits properly. And we can finish putting together the housing. Woohoo! So, a little size check, and it looks like everything is all good, so may as well plug it in. Oh yeah! Now let's put those riser screws, as I keep calling them, whatever the hell they are, back into their place. You always know how to put a riser screw back in its place. You grab the pliers, that's how. Says pliers guy, or the rapper Plies. And you know, I had to vacuum out the case. Now that the vacuum's back in action, trust me, it's getting lots of work. It's getting more work than I am, quite frankly. So we can pop back in our, not an Ethernet jack, but I think it's like a modem jack, or technically an old, it plugs directly into the modem. I don't know, leave me alone. More screws go back in, and we have a monitor semi-attached. Don't forget that the 2 tall screws that go in the bottom of the case, those are the ones that keep the monitor solid. So it's like, it feels loose up to this point until you put those screws in underneath the case. So I just really tightened them up there so that the monitor wouldn't flop around while I was putting the rest of the parts in. In goes the modem. And of course, a single screw that holds it down. Cover it with the sticky foil again. Our lovely little RF cushion bracket goes back in place. It's always nice when a piece can do 2 jobs, yeah? Like Listerine. 2 jobs! You guys know what I'm talking about. More screws. More screws. It's kind of the theme on this project. Non-stop screws. Okay, in goes the optical drive. Keeping in mind those 2 little plastic clips. Just don't want to break them when you're putting things back together. You're so close to the finish line. Why risk brittle old plastic? There we go. Everything's in. including another riser screw that holds the optical into place. I also noticed at this point that some of the vents at the top of the front, or sorry, at the top of the top case, I guess, had some dirt in them, and it was really sticky and gross. Could have been food or a sauce of some kind, so I hit it with the 99% ISO, got it all out of there. Plug it in the speaker wire. We can now fit the top case back into place. And just a reminder to be extra gentle with your ancient plastic. I know they say it lasts forever, but not this stuff. So what do you think? Good looking laptop. Maybe we should finish it off. Alright, let's finish it. Let's finish it off. Time to finish it off. So a couple more screws and we can toss this thing over and finally put in those two securing bolts that hold that laptop, or sorry, that hold that monitor hinge right in place. Then the bottom four. And actually things are pretty solid at this point. Once you have those 6 structural screws in the bottom and the one over by the optical, can't forget that, you can easily open and close this thing just as you would have before. Now the keyboard was a major pain to plug back in because it's not a clip, it's just a cable that doesn't have a lot of flex that directly connects to pins on the motherboard. Anyway, long story short, got the keyboard in, put the RAM cover plate back on, Wi-Fi card back in, keyboard's now in. Gonna give it a nice little lock turn at the top just so it doesn't flop around. And let's test.
Yes! Yes, yes. Let's do a little victory dance.
Alright, so now that we have the machine working, it's time to put an operating system on it. And I know it originally came with 9.2.2, which is fantastic, but that one was loaded with all this extra stuff, and to be perfectly honest, with the amount of time that I had to make this video, it just made more sense for me to put Tiger on it, because that's what I had ready to go. So first things first, you're going to start up the clamshell in target disk mode, start up the G4, and then I went in and formatted the hard drive. I then partitioned it, and then afterward we did a system restore using the 10.4 installer that I have. So that's kind of what's going on right now. How you doing? How's life? You met any aliens recently? As you can see, I'm pretty stoked there. Obviously the installer worked, so we're going to go ahead and install OS X 10.4. Quick little reboot. And there you have it. Velkommen, and Willkommen, and Valkommen. 10.4, Le Tigre. So yeah, I just fill in all my information here, and you know, the first thing that was on my mind was we got to install Diablo 2. So I went on the hunt for a PPC installer that would actually work with this machine on 10.4, because when you put in the actual native Diablo 2 disks, they want you to play it in classic mode or install into 9.2 or 9.1 or whatever it is that you have. In this case, I didn't have classic mode installed. So before we put Diablo in, though, we gotta chuck that battery in here. I'd like the machine to be complete so that I can take back the box that I was holding the parts in. You know what I'm saying. So here we go, Diablo 2 install. Now, it looked like everything was gonna work, but then when it would ask me to install the, or to put in the play disc during the installation, it would go for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then out of nowhere it would just say, error, could not install audio files, etc. I tried twice, and it didn't work either time, so that mystery has yet to be solved. Alright, so that's it for this project, and man am I glad it's finished. I'm also super happy I didn't have to reassemble it a second time. You know, long story short, I ordered the wrong part the first time, had to wait for the next one to come in. Anyway, got everything that we needed, assembled it back together, magically it turned back on. Thankfully, CompuLord did not get his wishes granted today. Admittedly, it feels like the SSD isn't starting the thing up instantly. It's also an older machine though, so you can't really expect it to start up like right away. Otherwise, it works fine. I tried to install Diablo 2, it wouldn't do it. Tried to install StarCraft, also wouldn't do it. I think there was some kind of error on the disk. Maybe we'll do another video sometime where I play some games on this. But for now, we're out of time this week. I need to edit this video. I'm gonna call it a success, even though we didn't play Diablo 2. Was that really the goal of this? Yeah, it kind of was. Joe, thank you again for your kindness and for all the work you do with big cats around the world. If anyone is interested in donating a coffee, you can find the link in the description below. You help support the channel. Additionally, please once more like and subscribe. That's the only way that we're gonna get to the promised land. So yeah, that's about it. Thanks a bunch for tuning in. We'll see you every Saturday with a new release. I'm the Canadian Computer Collector. And good morrow, milady. Can I get the door for you?